Hi, I'm Willie. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. And what we're going to do in this video is take a look at TP-Link Omada in June 2024. So if you're not familiar with TP-Link Omada, it is a software-defined network here in SDN. Basically, you have a single pane of glass, and it's like other vendors that you see here on the channel, whether it's Grandstream, Ubiquity. You can manage everything from excuse me, one interface. And you know, we've supported it, we use it. You can see here's the OC200 controller. All of these companies really do like their marketing, and it does work. It does work. I mean, here's a list, and I will leave, if you're interested, I'll leave affiliate links down below to the equipment that we're using here. Now, I'm not using the newest equipment, but I'm using what I have. And so one thing to know is that TP-Link Omada supports more features than what you're going to see here. For example, if you've got a router that supports it, they do have IDS, IPS, intrusion detection, intrusion prevention. And my router just doesn't have the hoop spot, or however you pronounce that, to do it, right? So I do have clients that I work with that have newer routers, and they are able to run IDS, IPS. The bigger routers don't take the speed ding that's noticeable like the smaller ones do, but just look at all these devices that they have. I mean, they have dozens of devices that you can manage, and then they've got an all-in-one router right here. They call it an integrated router, so it has everything but the access point built in. They do have the cloud-based controller, so let's talk about that. So you can buy their hardware-based controller. You can host the controller with them, or you can run it on a Windows machine. I think they have a Linux version. But all of these devices can be managed with Omada. So they have quite a bit of hardware that you can manage through this all-in-one interface. We'll talk about what we're going to do. I've got my OC200 up, and we're going to walk through the setup. We're going to look through the controller. We'll create our site. We'll look at the hardware. We'll look at some of the things that you can configure with the hardware that I've got. And altogether, I think for all the hardware that I've got back here, I think the switch is the most expensive thing. You can pick it up for between $300 and $400. So for all of this, you're looking at probably about $600 the way that this sits. So let's get started. Now, you're not going to be able to see me press the progress key because my face is over it. So here we go. We are going to create an administrator. And we're just going to use my stuff, and then we're just going to use lab password. Now here we can bind this to, we can also bind this to the TP-Link cloud so that we can access it from anywhere. We don't have to do port forwarding and things like that. I'm going to turn that off. I'll accept the terms and click next. And one thing that I like about Omada is that you don't have to bind it to their cloud to do MFA for your accounts. You can do it whether it's bound to the cloud or not. So I really do like that portion, or that setup of this. So we're going to do config new setup, and we're going to call this WH Lab Omada. We're going to drop this down. We're going to find Central Time. I do want to be notified when there are updates available. Now, everything except my access points on the newest firmware, I may have to factory default it. I'm not going to join the experience improvement program just at this moment. We're going to call our site inside the controller WH Lab. We're going to drop this down. We're going to find Central Time. And now this device account, we can specify the account that we can SSH into or log into the web interface or adopt these devices. So we're just going to do the same thing, WHOW Lab password. We're going to say this is an office, and next. And now we can see the devices that I've got. So I have the TLR605 version 1 router. I have the EAP 620 which is the Wi-Fi 6 access point, and then I have the Jetstream switch that all has 2.5 gig ports and 10 gig uplinks with PoE. So we're going to go ahead and select all those devices to configure, and we're going to go next. I am not going to override anything on the WAN, so we'll go next there. For Wi-Fi, I'm just going to say Omada Lab, and you guessed it, lab password. We'll create guest here in a minute. And so now we've got this overview of everything that we've got. So we're going to go ahead and click finish. It's going to go ahead and configure the server and the site. Now, the controller itself, that OC200, is not much. It's not much bigger than my DJI Action 4 camera. It's really not. It's not that much bigger. It's a pretty small device. This stuff's all really pretty compact. All right, so let's go ahead and log in. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look over the controller itself, look through those options, and then we will look through the site and those options. So it's going to load for us here. And this kind of gives you kind of an overview of everything. I'm going to go ahead and close that. So up here at the top, obviously it says TP-Link Omada. Here is the controller name. Under organization, we have a global view, and this global view would tell us how many devices that we have completely in this controller and how many sites. And then we can also, obviously, it's multi-site capable, so if we wanted to host multiple sites with this controller, we could do that. We just need to forward some ports through our router. Organization up here, we've got global view, and then all of our sites would be listed here, and you can see that we've got WH Lab. We'll come back to that in a second. Here we can do a search of the settings. Then under our user, we've got account settings here, and let me see what that's got. Let's see what our little our three dots over here are about, tutorial, feedback, and preferences. Real quick, let's take a look at the account settings for my account. Now I do have to enter my password, so if somebody accidentally got in and they're trying to make changes, they would need to know your password before they could make any changes. I am the main administrator, so by default you've got 3 roles. We'll take a look at this. I have site privileges to all sites, username, password, email, and if we want email alerts, we do have to configure an email server, and right here is that MFA, and you should turn that on. And once again, we do not need to be bound to the Omada cloud for that to work, which is beautiful. I'm going to cancel that. Let's see. So if we go to about, it's going to show us our controller build. So we're on the latest controller, 5.13.30.50. There's the build there. What else do we have? Here's that tutorial. We'll close that. Feedback, and then preferences. So where we're at right now is we are not in the site yet. We are still in the controller overview, so like the back end of the controller. And here you see, here's our site. So we can take a look at known and unknown devices. So the adopt failed on the switch, and it failed because I had to change the username and password. So I'm going to click adopt. I'm going to adopt it into the lab, and we're going to adopt that in. So that will be adopting. We've got logs here, and it's split it by alerts, events, and notifications. And here you can see what kind of notifications that you want to get, and it's pretty thorough. So we go back to our devices. That should have adopted. Yep, and so now it's a known device. So we'll get to these here in a second. Here are our tools. So right from the interface, we can select our hardware controller, and we can do a ping and a trace route. And here's some advanced, we can change the packet size, the count, things like that, and then your output is down here. So here we'll just do 1.1.1.1, and we'll hit run. and you can see that it is our WH Lab Omada, and we were able to get that right from here. We didn't have to SSH into a device. We were able to do it right here through the UI. Here's my account options. Now, you can see that I'm a main administrator. I'm verified, so I could edit my user, which is where we were at earlier. But here's the roles. So by default, you've got main administrator, administrator, and viewer. So a viewer is going to be able to view only. And look at all of these. Look how fine-grained this is. You can really dig in and create any role that you want. And then, so main administrator can see everything, and an administrator can, they can't see logs. They can only see the roles. They can't get to other settings. And with a standard administrator, we could tighten it down where they can only access a single site. All right, let's take a look at our controller settings. So here's our name, uptime, all that good stuff, internal storage. Down here, we can actually upload an SSL certificate for this. So if we're doing captive portal, if we're accessing the controller by FQDN, so you can upload Java Key Store, or you can do a PFX or PIM. Here's our logging level type. Here we can change our host name. We can change all of the ports. And then down here we can reboot, factory, reset, check for upgrade, or we can do a manual upgrade. Under controller settings, this is our IP, this is our time settings, our time zone. Are we doing daylight savings time? Here's our controller capacity. So this OC200 can manage 100 access points, 20 switches, and 10 gateways simultaneously. So for a little device, it can manage quite a bit. And I'm glad that they put this limit on there, because you don't want to try to do too much with a controller. We all know what happens when you do that. Here's our language and our user interface settings. We can do remote logging. This is all of our history data retention here. Server setting, this is where we can enable the built-in radius if we're going to do things that require radius, such as a VPN, 802.1x. We can configure our SMTP server here. Here's that MFA. Platform integration, I haven't done anything yet with the API. Maybe Tim can take a look at that. Here's some maintenance. So this is where we can back up and restore our config. We can do auto backups, and then we can export running logs and configuration data for support. Here we can do, under migration, we can do site migrations or controller migrations, so you can do individuals or entire controllers. Here we can export all different kinds of information: device list, client, rogue AP, logs, authorized client, voucher codes. We can export it as comma separated or Excel. And then, of course, we can send an email if we had SMTP enabled. And then here's that cloud access. So now, if we go back home and we hop into our WH Lab site, now we're going to be able to look at our devices, and we're going to be able to look at the settings for this site. So it's loading here. And, whoop, kicked me out. I don't know what that was all about. They also do have an app. You can manage this from your phone. All right, so we're in our lab site, everything. We can set our internet capacity there, but you get this really nice menu. We got one gateway, one switch, one AP, 3 clients. We can configure the way that this looks. Here you've got your statistics, so you've got your performance, and then you can drop down the device to look at your performance of each of these devices. You can switch ports on it, and then you have switch statistics, so we can pull the switch port statistics, and you can see right here that the AP is on port 1, port 8 is our router. They do have a topology map built in here, so you can see how it goes together. We can do a heat map. I don't have any floor plan loaded. I don't have any of the devices on here, but you can do that. And then there is a device map. I don't have a Mapbox API, so we're not gonna fool with that at the moment. Now, like I said, what you're seeing here is also reflective of the capability of the devices. So when we get to configuration, you're not going to see IDS IPS because this device can't do it, but there are Omada gateways that can do it. So here's our overview of our device list. Let's see if this access point needs to be upgraded. And we can take a look at that. We can come in here and we could actually do, under manage device, we could actually do a manual upgrade here. I'll have to check the firmware on that. And this just came online, so things are just starting to catch up. We've got statistics, LAN, radios. Nice little menu here. We can see the clients that are connected if we're meshing. Once again, here's the config. So we got LEDs. We can change the name. We can tag it. Put addresses, latitude, longitude in. We've got IP settings. Right now, everything is just DHCP. Here's our radio settings. Right now, everything is on auto. The WLANs, and this does support WLAN groups. We can also change the management VLAN. And then we can get in and we can change some of the advanced settings. And then, of course, we have the management where we can forget it. We can download the device info, all those good things. Tools, we can run a scan. And then you've got your statistics. On the switch, it's going to be similar. It's going to have all of our information. It's going to have our ports. We can come in here and we can edit port settings. You can power cycle the PoE. You can set profiles. Here's our clients. Back to the configuration, we can turn on our jumbo tags. We can change the hashing for lags. VLAN interfaces, static routes. We've got other services that are on here. And then, of course, statistics. And then here is our router, and it's going to be, this is all going to look very much the same. Nice, clean. You can say they copied it from whoever, but it is nice and clean and it works. So that's our device. We can also do device grouping, and this application result, this will tell us things about the devices. That when we push configurations, what worked, what didn't work. So like here on the AP, we've got an info. So if we pull this up, so this device does not support this feature. So as we do this, it tells us what works, what doesn't. That's pretty nice. Go down to clients. You can see the clients that are plugged in. I did have to use a mini switch to bridge that. Here is all of our insights. So all of the things about our clients, past connections, portal authorizations, switch status, port forwarding status, VPN status, our routing table, dynamic DNS if we're using that, rogue APs, quality of service. It's got all of our logging, just like the main controller, but this is site specific. Then under tools here, we can do pings and trace routes from any of these devices right here through the UI. We don't have to SSH in. So we will go ahead and run a ping from this device. Maybe. Oh, this device does not support ping. So we'll do the switch. Confirm, and then we'll run it. And so down here we should get that same output that we had before, and there it is, pinging out to 1.1.1. You can actually do a packet capture, and I'm wondering if I upgrade the firmware on that EAP if it'll do that. And then we do have the terminal, so we can terminal into them, but a lot of the times the reason we're terminaling into things, if they're adopted, we don't need to do. Here's your reports. So you've got a nice summary here. You got a wireless summary, wired summary, wireless summary, wired devices, SSID, and clients. And now we're going to take a look at the settings. So here are our site settings. Here are our LED settings, channel limits, mesh, auto failover, connectivity detection, full sector DFS, LLDP, remote logging, advanced features. There's that device account. Under wired networks, we've got our internet, which is the first WAN port. Now we can have 3 WAN ports on this and 1 LAN port. So we can do policy-based routing and things like that. Here under LAN, you can see that we've got our default network. Here we can create different profiles, and you can see all disabled and LAN. And then we've got switch settings here, which tells us which networks those apply to. And so while we're here, we're going to go ahead and create a new LAN. We're going to call this guest Wi-Fi. And it is going to be an interface. We're going to put it on the LAN only. It's going to be VLAN 2. We'll do 10.10.2.1/29. We'll update our DHCP range. For now, we can leave everything else at default, and we'll click Save. And so now it's going to push that, and if we want to see if it failed anywhere, we can go to Application Result, and it's going to show us all of the devices and whether it was able to push it where it needed to. So now you can see there's a guest Wi-Fi profile. We can come in here to our switch port settings, and if we edit this, we can come in here and we should be able to see the profile is set to all, which means we are tagging VLAN 2 on those ports. All right, next thing is wireless networks. So you can see Omada Lab is here. This is the default WLAN group. And grouping allows us to have different SSIDs on different devices without touching each device. So we're going to create a new wireless network, and we're going to call this Omada Guest, and it's going to be on the EAP. And we do not have a 6 gigahertz access point. We only have 2.4 and 5. And we're going to enable it as a guest network. It'll be WPA personal here. We'll do lab password. Under advanced settings, we're going to check VLAN and put VLAN 2. And you can see they've got some Wi-Fi 7 stuff in here like MLO. Everything else we're going to leave the same. We could do client or SSID rate limiting. So if you do SSID rate limiting, you rate limit the entire SSID at one time. If you do it at the client level, each client has those rate limits. I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Then, of course, they have the built-in WLAN optimization, and we can tell it to deploy now. Just remember that this is software doing its best guess. It doesn't necessarily understand your physical environment. It is just using a pre-programmed algorithm to set those channels and that power. We typically don't let devices like this do that. Under network security, we've got ACLs, access control lists, and you can see we can do gateway ACLs. And you need to create groups for this to work. Either an IP group, a network, or an IP port group. It's permit, deny. We've got switch ACLs and EAP ACLs. So that by tagging that Wi-Fi network as a guest network, it should set up those rules so that network can't get into our main network. Here we can do URL filtering, and we can do it at the gateway or the EAP. Attack defense, just some basic things to optimize the firewall here. Here's our firewall, here's our state timeouts, and then do we want it to respond to pings or not. Here we can do IP MAC binding, so we can enable ARP spoofing defense. Then under transmission, we've got static routes or we've got policy routes. So if we have multiple WANs, we can tell certain types of traffic to go out of a different WAN port. Static route is obviously static routing. If we need to get to a destination network, this is how you get there. Is it an interface? Is it a next hop? Things like that. The switch will run OSPF. I don't know if this switch supports it or not, but you can see that it is built in here. We've got our NAT set up, so it is port forwarding. We've got application layer gateways, which we typically disable these. And then you can even do one-to-one NAT. So, and you don't have to go in and mess with SNAT and DNAT. You just come in here and do one-to-one NAT. You've got session limiting, so that'd be TCP, UDP, session limiting. We've got bandwidth control. So we can do it on entire networks. We could do it on single IP addresses. And that limits the upload and download bandwidth. Then you've got gateway quality of service. So here we can do another bandwidth control. Here we can set up the different classes. This starts getting into some advanced stuff. So if you want to see bandwidth control and class rule, let me know. Here we can say give VoIP prioritization. So if we're using port 5060, we could turn that on, put 5060 in there, and VoIP's going to get prioritization. And then we can actually tag outbound traffic with our DSCPs. But once it hits the public internet, all bets are off. But if you've got if you do have an ISP that actually honors the tags, then it becomes helpful. All right, we've got switch QoS. So we can do pretty much the same thing here with the switch. It's got virtual router redundancy protocol, so we can have multiple gateways running in high availability, or VRRP. Remember, if you're going to do that, you have to have multiple WAN IPs, and you have to obviously have multiple LAN IPs to make this work correctly. I don't have 2 routers, or we would set that up. Under VPN, we can create new VPNs, and this one is IPsec. Now, the newer routers support WireGuard. So this router does not support WireGuard. It just doesn't have the oomph, and it also will become a client to site VPN, and we can do VPN server. It does support OpenVPN IPsec over IPsec L2TP. So we can set that up here for our remote users. Then under profiles, this is where we can create time range profiles, group profiles, and we can apply these to traffic or network groups. Here's our rate limiting. PPSK, it does support PPSK. Gateway quality of service, and you can see that it's got some things already built in for that. And it's got the source and destination ports and the description. We've got bonjour, if you're doing that. Radius profiles, and it does have built-in radius. You can connect to LDAP and also APN. Under authentication, we've got our portal. We've got our access control, where we can do post or pre-authorization, where they're able to go there. But then we've got the portal here, and we could turn this on. And the authentication type, you can do simple password, hotspot, radius server, external LDAP, or external portal server. And you can see you can edit the page there. Here's our 802.1x, which our switch should support. And then here is MAC-based authentication. Under services, we've got DHCP reservations, dynamic DNS, multicast DNS, SNMP, UPnP, SSH. We can do a reboot schedule. We can do a port schedule where we can actually turn switch ports off, either PoE or completely disable the port at specified times. We've got IPTV, upgrade schedule, and then we can do auto. We can do exports of this. I was excited about the scheduling. We cannot, I don't think we can schedule that, but we can do that now. And then here you've got some advanced stuff under the CLI. So if I had more powerful devices, there would be more options, but you can see even with the older devices that I have, there's still a lot of options. There's still a lot of options exposed here. The controller is very powerful. If there's something you want to know about this particular setup that I have, let me know and I'll show you. I'm going to leave it running in the rack back here, and we'll do some different setups. We'll do some shorter videos where we do specific setups based on what you want down in the comments. And I've got other devices and I've got other videos that I got to finish up. So I might grab, though, a newer TP-Link Omada router because I do have clients that use it. So it probably wouldn't hurt for me to have one in the rack and be able to configure those newer services. So I'll have to see what's available. Or if anybody out there has one and they want to send it, you could do that too. I wouldn't say no to that. But let me know down in the comments what you want to see. And if you like this video and you're using Omada, either or, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe, comment, share. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok. Those links are down below, along with affiliate links, a Patreon link. And if you need IT consulting, if you want us to check over your TP-Link, Omada, or any other networking gear that you've got to make sure settings are on the up and up, head on over to williehowe.com. And we don't just do networking, we do voice over IP. Security is becoming huge, and storage as well. If you go to williehowe.com, you can fill out the contact form that's right there on the front page, and someone will be in touch with you as soon as possible. Go on over to community.williehowe.com, join our community, share your knowledge, ask your questions. We are creating a fantastic group over there. Once again, I'm Willie. TP-Link Omada, I think, is still relevant in 2024. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know what you want to see. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.